Alright, so today's going to be a super fun one. We're going to take a super early look at the new motion design tools in Unreal Engine 5.4. I'm pretty much going to be focusing on the Cloner object today, but I'll definitely go through some other ones later on, and I'm just going to kind of give you my first impressions. I've played around with it, made a few scenes. I'll walk you guys through the basic setup. And again, this is like a preview version of Unreal 5.4, so just keep that in mind. I might crash a lot. Also, I just want to give a big shout out to Aiden, Wilson, and Luke from Fast Chaos. They helped me a bunch with the 5.4 install. So if you want to learn more, go check out Aiden's video. He has a good video on how to build Unreal Engine from source on GitHub. And he also has a overview video of the new 5.4 features. Man, my brain is feeling slow. So I'm in a blank 5.4 project, as you can see here, version 5.4.0. Again, this is a super early preview version, so take everything with a pinch of salt. The first thing you'll notice is I have this motion design button at the top, which I already have running, but pretty much what this is it'll be a new motion design mode that'll live in the menu with our other nodes, with our other modes that we are familiar with. An interesting thing is actually you need to enable this in the plugins window. So you got to go to your plugins and type motion design and enable it. All right, so once you enable it and press start, you will be introduced with this new side menu here. And you'll notice a few different windows that pop up. I won't go through everything, and I also don't know exactly what every new window is with the operator stack and the remote control, so we'll just stick with the motion design stuff for now. As you can see here on the left, there's some new menus here, nothing too crazy though, but the main one being 2D shapes. So this is those features where you could draw 2D things onto the screen. 3D shapes, which is similar to that other menu here. I'm not going to click it because typically that causes a crash, so I just want to be careful. This is a very interesting one. So this is where you can create your cloner and your effectors, as well as other things like text, your SVG stuff, media plates, null actor, and a spline actor. So really cool, a bunch of new features here. Kind of. Another menu for creating static meshes, a camera menu for the regular stuff, and then a lights menu. So I feel like Epic's just trying to make a little hub for common tools used in motion design. So not all of it is super new, they've just kind of repackaged some things. Up the top here, again, some more new buttons, but again, I'm not going to go through it. For now, we will stick with the cloner and the effectors. So first thing I'm going to do is actually just set up a basic cloner. So I'm going to go to this menu here. Please don't crash. Well, I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back again. All I've done is made a sphere from the scary plus menu, and I'm also going to quickly scale it down to a 0.3 because when we put it in a cloner, we're going to need some space, and the default one size can be quite big. So I'm just going to click start on my motion design mode again and go down to actors, and then click the cloner actor and just click somewhere in the viewport. So now we can actually, as you can see here, do some really cool stuff with the cloner. And this kind of gave me that feeling of learning how to use a cloner in Cinema 4D for the first time. So it was super fun. I'll go through some of my example scenes later on and give you a quick breakdown of each one of them. So let me just zero out the rotation and position here. And I'll also actually make a camera, but I don't want to do it from that menu because I'm scared. Camera, Cine Camera Actor 2. And I'm just going to quickly make it a square aspect ratio and then change to the cinema viewport. This is like some new motion design viewport where you can like zoom in and out, and there's a grid. I think a lot more useful for 2D things or just using a grid to space icons and logos around, but not super useful for me. Cool. So this is our cloner. I'm going to delete the default cube and then make my sphere movable and then drag that on top of my cloner. I don't know what that weird error was, but I'm gonna just drag my orange material on the sphere, and as you can see, sometimes it doesn't work, but all you gotta do is click your cloner again, turn it on and off, and that can fix it. Or you can just do force update cloner and that'll also help it. And I'm just gonna turn off my culling. Cool. And my sun is a bit bright. So my sphere is at 0.3. So let's make the spacing of our cloner. As you can see, oh my goodness. So as you can see, the details panel in the cloner, you get all your classic options, your layout. So you can do a grid, you can do a circle, line, cylinder, all these other things like the regular stuff. With the line, you got to actually set a spline, which is a pretty cool effect you can do actually. So I'll just do grid for now. I'll make the spacing 0.35 on each axis. Oh, 3.5. No, 35? Oh, of course, centimeters to meters. Okay, cool. So let me zoom my camera in. Again, sorry guys, it's very late. I'm just trying to stay coherent here, and I'm also trying to contain my excitement. And now what we could do is, again, in this menu, you can change the spacing in the X, Y, and Z positions, and you can also change the count. And another thing you'll notice in the little updated icons here, you can keyframe all of these things. So it really opens up the possibilities, and it should by default also open up this sequencer for you when you enter your motion design mode. So pretty cool. It's a bit different looking in the motion design template, but pretty much the same stuff. You just add a sequence, select it. This one will be here by default, and then you can just drag any actor in here. So could just drag my cloner in, make this like 12, 12, 12, or maybe not 12 in height. Let's try 1 and then try like 50 and 50. Yeah, and then we kind of get this sort of infinite sphere world look, which is pretty cool. It's so awesome to be able to get like our real-time reflections and lighting, and really responsive. So these are going to be the main settings that you play with within the cloner actor. Now the next thing that we care about are the effector actors. So I'm just going to click that guy and then somewhere in the scene. I don't know why I'm doing this like a walkthrough, because a lot of you probably aren't even following along. Let me find him. So with our effector, again, I'm just going to zero out the coordinates. So it's in the middle here. So this guy, you can see here you have the ability to change its positioning, its scale, blah, 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 but you'll see nothing is happening. And that is because we need to assign our effector in the cloner. So if I scroll up a bit, you'll see effectors here. I can hit the plus icon, and then in the drop down select effector 2, and now crazy stuff will happen. Now our effector will actually work again all in real time without any lag and super good performance. I do want to try this with some high poly meshes as well, like product objects and things like that. So I will maybe make some renders and put it on my Instagram, or make another video on that as well. Let me know in the comments. And what we can also do is maybe set the Z direction to like a 50. And now you can really kind of start having some fun with it. Can even make it like 150, come out of it. And you can already imagine the sort of animation and motion you can do with this. So while I'm on the topic of that, let's animate this in our sequencer. So with our sequencer already open at the bottom here, I can just drag my effector into the tracks tab or tracks window. And then by default, it's on 60 FPS. So I'm just going to change it to 30 and then drag it out to 150. I don't know, I'm doing it the slow way. 150, so we got 5 seconds. Go to the beginning, add a transform track and then a keyframe. Actually, I'll start it back here maybe, and then add a keyframe, go all the way to the other corner, maybe there. Oh, and I didn't move my playhead, rookie mistake. Move this guy here. And now you'll see we can have our cool effector movement, and it loops and it looks all nice, and all our reflections and GI and all of that stuff is playing in real time. Now, another cool thing I found out about while being in the sequencer is if I select my two keyframes, there are now presets for like the type of easing in and out that you want for your keyframe. So, and if you hover over them, you'll actually get a preview of that movement, and it's super similar to, what is that keyframe helper plugin in Cinema? And I know Grayscale Gorilla also have it. So really cool for them to add these really, what's the word? These like quality of life updates, these like handy little tools that just save a few clicks every time that add up to a bunch of time in a project. I don't know if that sentence made sense. So for example, let's try Quartic, and then I'll go to the front, and you can see it's slow at the start. I don't know why I can't speak. It's slow at the start and then speeds up in the middle and then slows down again. Let me move my end frame to somewhere just beyond the camera. Somewhere there. And then I think if you update the frames, you just want to click it again just to make sure it's fine. And then you can see here. And then if you just leave that playing, you can really just like come up with some cool shots. Something like that. Even play around with your camera settings, you know, try a 75. Get some nice depth of field going and really have some fun with this. And the next thing you can do, let me move out a bit and then also change my focal distance. Now the next thing we can do is actually layer different effectors on top of each other like you would in Cinema 4D. So if I go back to the menu on the left, go to Effector Actor, click somewhere, we'll now have this new guy. And what we could do with this is, if I just go out of my game view here, I'll show you some of the other things you can do with the effector, but some of it is either not fully working yet, or I'm just not using it correctly, I'm not sure. But let me go to my cloner, add a second array element and choose effector 3 for my effectors list. And now let me move it out of my clones, you have these other force options as well. So orientation force kind of puts like, oh no, that just does rotation, so that won't do anything because it's a sphere. Not orientation, vertex force, and you can see here of the vortex, not vertex, it just spins the clones, and then you can uncheck it and then check it again to reset. And I'll just change the force amount to like 100 and then move the effector down, and you can sort of see it working in real time, and you can like move it around and it'll live update. So there's no collisions happening at the moment, but one thing I've found is that it sort of just applies the force to a particle and then it just keeps going on forever. Like you can't have, you know, you can't control it a little more, like the upper limits of it or things like that, but still really cool. There's also curl noise. So as you can see here, you can just drag it around and pretty much add a curl noise force to anything that it comes through. So really cool for like if you have a bunch of clones lined up and you want to kind of add like a destructive force to them, or like as something whizzes by, maybe you have like a curl noise effector going by with that item just to kind of give that idea of like wind and movement. You also have attraction force. So as you can see here, it sort of just gets the clones moving towards the effector origin like that. So pretty cool. Again, could be really fun to create sort of like some sort of sucking animation pause. Also just cool to be able to move this around in real time. And then you could use the take recorder and then really hand paint the type of movement you want your effector to have, or just keyframe it. And then last but not least, there's a gravity force, so you can sort of just make cloners fall and give them gravity essentially. So pretty cool. A really cool effect here actually, if you want like falling pieces, falling geometry, maybe again as some sort of object interacts with another, it suddenly applies the gravity to them. Now, one of my favorite features of this new motion design and effector cloner workflow is applying a noise field to all your cloners. So if I select my effector here and then under type choose unbound instead of sphere, so it'll encompass my entire scene, I can now change my mode from default, which is that classic position, rotation, scale effector, to noise field. Now nothing will happen yet, but if I change my strength to say 50, 50, 50, you'll start noticing it is displacing all my clones in the noise pattern. And I can affect it even more. So if I go to 500, you'll see it's super affected. So I'll just leave it on 50 for now. And if you want to get this moving, and I'm pretty sure this is how they did their wave example, the Lego wave example in their keynote a few months back, is if I just now make my pan, if I up these values, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, I'll now get this undulating noise pattern that's pretty much just panning the noise map along the world coordinates and then driving the location values based off of that. And then you can also affect the scale, so 0.5, 0.5. So I'm assuming the darker values or the lighter values are affecting the scale from the noise map. 0.1. Really cool. I don't know why the 0.1 is stretching it. I don't know if it's the order of these guys. Maybe the scale thing isn't working just as of yet. Or actually, no, that would be the gray values of the noise map, I've just realized, because it's not pure black and white. One thing that would be cool is if we could input our own custom noise map, or they would give us like a drop down menu of the different types of noises. I think that would be something really fun that they could add in the future. Also something that Cinema 4D does. So let me just reset the scale. And you can see here the frequency is going to be like the overall speed. So if I change it to 1, I can up the frequency and like the contrast of it. It's probably affecting the wavelength as well. And if, as you can see, the edges are very visible in this camera angle. So say you didn't want that, you could just come down to the cloner and then up the amount of clones, or I think it's already in here. Yep. We could go to this guy and oh, step. That's cool. That's cool. I just found that out by accident, but I guess you can't have like a growth cloner thing happening, which I thought you could, to be honest. Oh, so this is like an overall random effector. Okay, so let me explain this real quick. I hope I'm still recording. Okay, so this range checkbox lets you actually add a random effector essentially to all your clones, and you can set the minimum and maximum offset of every clone. So you could have them be from a minimum of minus 500 in Z and then plus 500 in Z, and now they're spread across 1,000 units. Or you could make it more subtle, minus 10 and 10. And now they're just slightly offset rather than completely aligned. So really cool. I don't know how I missed these settings before and these checkboxes. But as you could see before, I showed you the range stuff, which is the randomization. There's also a step checkbox, which kind of steps. I just put a super small value in, but it steps the scale from the value you enter until the actual full value of the mesh. So for me, that would be 0.3. So that's pretty cool. And you also have an option to step the rotation. Another thing you can do is drag in another object under the cloner. So I just have a blue blue cube here. Just drag him on top. Boom. Now you've got a cube in the cloner, and I think you can, as you can see here, I'm stepping the rotation with the step modifier, I guess you'd call it. So this is without the step, and then this is with the step. So really cool, super flexible. And I think there's a way to randomly assign how it's cloned. I just got to, I think it's one of these guys. Yep. So if you go to renderer, mesh render mode, you can randomly clone or randomly spread out how the clones are sequenced, I guess is the word. Or you can go to iterate, which it makes it one after the other. As you can see here, each row, sphere, cube. And then blend is, ooh, pretty cool. Blend. I wonder how to control the blend. Yeah, okay. Okay, that's what I thought. So if you have whatever number of clones you have, it'll just divide your grid up into that amount and then spread it across that. But super cool. Wow. Super dope. Especially this as a visual. And you can see the step rotation working. It's magic here as well. Anyway, that's enough of me mucking around on camera. Sorry if you feel like I'm wasting your time. I'm going to show you some of the other cloner setups I have in another level. Okay, so this setup very similar to the one we just made, except I've just got two rectangular lights lighting the scene, and then I've got a noise effector with a pretty high strength on the location, and then also a scale and move effector sort of moving through the scene. And then I think on this one, oh, I've just got a linear movement on it. So super simple. This was my first setup that I made. So my second setup was using these cubes, and I actually gave them a few bevels and rounded them, which is a new feature in 5.4. I can make a quick video on how to do that, but they've updated their modeling tool selection. So again, a really simple setup. I've just got a cloner with a box or a cube in it. And then for the effectors, I've got this really slow moving noise that only moves the cloners in the X and Y positions. Also, for any of you out there that don't know, Y is Z in Cinema 4D, so it's flipped. So in Unreal, Z is up and Y is like side to side, one of them. I don't know why I'm explaining this. And then this is the sequence for it. So I've got a sphere that moves around essentially. I think the camera was originally here. Yeah, so I've got a sphere that moves, and then I've got a cloner as a child of that sphere so that it looks like the sphere is affecting our cubes. So this is a very classic MoGraph technique in cinema. So I've just got a regular sphere here, and then I made a effector that just changes the scale of the cubes. And then what I've done is I made the effector a child of the sphere and then just zero out its coordinates. And then now when I animate the sphere, it looks like it is affecting the cubes. And again, really simple lighting in this one and colors. I've just got two spotlights shining down, and I'm also slowly animating these spotlights from side to side. And then for the sphere cubes, this is where I learned about, no, there's also no keyframe. There definitely is, because you can tell by the movement. But I don't know why it's not showing up here. Might be a bug, but I used the quartic movement for this guy. And this is the last setup that I made. A bit more of an interesting one where I have four different cloners, each with their own effectors. Although you can have multiple cloners using the same set of effectors, so you don't need to worry about duplicating them. And then within the cloner itself, I set the layout name or the mode to mesh. And this is where if you select mesh, you can then choose a sample actor for it to clone onto. So for example, cube 3, which is this guy, I just had a simple cube and I selected the cloner and then chose this actor. And now if I hide it, it'll still work, the reference will still work, and then we'll just be left with these spheres, which is really dope. And then again, just did the exact same thing for all these guys. So if I just select these cubes, you can see here we've got our original cubes that the cloner is placing its clones on. And then in the actual settings, I've made the count 500 or 5,000, sorry. And then I made the sample data sections instead of vertices, because vertices, as you can see here, it's a very low poly cube, so you're not going to have many vertices for it to clone onto. So I just did sections. Although I'm sure if you modeled your own cube with even subdivisions, you could just choose triangles or faces or whatever you want. And again, a really cool and simple lighting setup. Just let me see. Just two rectangular lights. So I got one here as my key light, and then I got a background one to sort of act as this gradient fall off on the floor. And I just got this plane as the base, and gave it a metal material. So as you can see, the new Cloner and Effector workflow in the new Unreal Engine 5.4 is super fun to play with, has a lot of possibilities for different types of MoGraph animations that you can do within Unreal, and I'm so glad because now I don't need to do the Cineware workflow if I'm doing simple cloner stuff, because that can get really heavy. As you can see, I was finding out about a bunch of new things, so this was sort of my first look and impressions of this whole new motion design mode. Super fun to play around with again. I hope I wasn't too all over the place and rambly. I know I kind of was just playing around and being super casual. I really hope this was helpful. Let me know if there's other features you want me to check out before the release or even after the release. There's some that I also have in mind, so I want to check those out and then also make a video. But other than that, enjoy your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.